Today's topic is oxygen dissociation curve of hemoglobin. So before going to this ODC, we can have a look on the structure of hemoglobin. Already I have uploaded one video discussing about the structure and synthesis of heme. So have a look on that. And we can briefly see the structure of the hemoglobin. We know hemoglobin is a tetrameric protein. It's a globular protein. And each monomer subunit is having one globin chain and a prosthetic group, that is heme. Heme, we know it is the protoporphyrin ring. And centrally placed iron can be seen. And here the iron, it is in the Fe2 plus form, that is the reduced form, ferrous form. And this iron is having 6 valencies. And the 4 of these valencies are satisfied by the pyrrole nitrogen, that is in the porphyrin ring, and the 5th one is satisfied by the histidine of globin, and the remaining 6th one, it is linked to the oxygen. So such hemoglobin, that is the oxyhemoglobin, that can carry oxygen. So here structural conformation of oxyhemoglobin and deoxyhemoglobin we can discuss first. That is, hemoglobin is a tetrameric protein having 4 subunits. See, 4 subunits, and each subunit is having a prosthetic group heme and also the protein part, that is globin. And each heme, that is, we know it is a porphyrin, protoporphyrin, and the centrally placed iron is there. And in the case of hemoglobin, it can exist. The quaternary structure of hemoglobin may be in oxyhemoglobin form or deoxyhemoglobin form. The oxyhemoglobin form is also known as R form or relaxed form, and that is the oxygen carrying hemoglobin. The other one, that is the deoxyhemoglobin, that is T form, that is taut or tight form we can say, and this T form that cannot carry oxygen. So we can go for the T form first. T form means that it's a deoxyhemoglobin, it cannot carry oxygen, and we can have a look on the structure of the T form. Here we can see the 4 monomers or 4 subunits. Each subunit is having globin chain, again porphyrin ring, that means heme part. It's having iron. The T form, that is stabilized by electrostatic forces between the carboxyl and amino group, that we may say salt bridges. This red dotted, shown it as the salt bridges. And again, not only that, there is one molecule, that is 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate or 2,3-diphosphoglycerate, that also stabilizes this T form. That is, this 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate that also prevents the addition of oxygen to this or carrying of oxygen by the T form. So by these characteristics, that is the presence of the salt bridges, again the presence of this 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate or 2,3-diphosphoglycerate, preventing this T form from carrying the oxygen. So that is the deoxyhemoglobin. This cannot carry oxygen. And now we can move to the relaxed form or R form. Here the T form, that is stabilized by electrostatic forces between the carboxyl and amino group, that we may say salt bridges. This red dotted, shown it as the salt bridges. And again, not only that, there is one molecule, that is 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate or 2,3-diphosphoglycerate, that also stabilizes this T form. That is, this 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate that also prevents the addition of oxygen to this or carrying of oxygen by the T form. So by these characteristics, that is the presence of the salt bridges, again the presence of this 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate or 2,3-diphosphoglycerate, preventing this T form from carrying the oxygen. So that is the deoxyhemoglobin. This cannot carry oxygen. And now we can move to the relaxed form or R form. When oxygenation occurs, the salt bonds are broken successively. So here the salt bond is broken, and one of the subunit linked to the oxygen or carries the oxygen here. And again further, it will increase when one of the oxygen binds to one subunit, that will increase the affinity of the other subunits towards the oxygen. So what happens? By the successive addition of this oxygen, these salt bridges or the salt bonds are broken successively, and this deoxyhemoglobin form is converted to completely to R form or the relaxed form, that is the oxygenated hemoglobin form. So the salt bonds, first this bond is broken, again this one is addition of this oxygen to one of the subunit that will cause a conformational change to the structure, resulting in the affinity of other subunit, that will increase the affinity of other subunits towards the oxygen. That is allosteric effect we can see here. So by the breaking of the salt bridges, this 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate also get released. And thereby this T form switches to R form. See the R form, there we can see no salt bridges, or there is no 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate. Again we can see the oxygen linked to the 4 subunits. So that is the R form, or the oxygenated or oxyhemoglobin form, and such form that carries the oxygen. And here this process, that is the binding of one oxygen to one of the subunit, increasing the affinity of the other subunits towards the oxygen, and that phenomenon is known as positive cooperativity. That is the binding of oxygen to one heme residue increases the affinity of remaining heme residue for oxygen. Thus each successive addition of the oxygen increases the affinity of hemoglobin towards oxygen. And during this conversion of T form to R form, this 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate is also get released. So coming to the oxygen dissociation curve. And we plot this curve, we will get a sigmoid shaped curve. That is, we are plotting partial pressure of oxygen on the x-axis, that is the scale 25, 50, 75, 100 millimeters of mercury. Coming to the y-axis, we are given this percentage oxygen saturation of hemoglobin. And this oxygen saturation means how much oxygen bound to the hemoglobin basically. And we will have a characteristic sigmoid shaped curve. And the sigmoid curve also explains the positive cooperativity also. And coming to this oxygen saturation curve, we have seen that at partial pressure oxygen 100, if the partial pressure of oxygen is 100 millimeters of mercury, then we can see 98 or 97% oxygen saturation of hemoglobin. So that occurs in pulmonary alveoli. That is, if partial pressure of oxygen is 100 millimeters of mercury, then oxygen saturation is 98% or 97% we can say. Coming to if partial pressure of oxygen is 50 millimeters of mercury, when we plot this, we will get 83% oxygen saturation. If partial pressure of oxygen is 50 millimeters of mercury, oxygen saturation goes to 83%. And when we see the partial pressure of oxygen, if it is 40, and that occurs in tissue capillaries, there the oxygen saturation becomes 75%. Oxygen saturation 75%. But actually in tissue capillaries only 60% saturation can be seen. Anyway, we will explain that later. So that's about the oxygen dissociation curve. That is, if PO2 is 100, 98% oxygen saturation can be seen. If PO2 is 50, we can see almost 83% of oxygen saturation. If PO2 is 40, 75% oxygen saturation can be seen. The ability of hemoglobin to load and unload oxygen at physiological partial pressure of oxygen is shown by this ODC curve, oxygen dissociation curve. And at pulmonary alveoli, where the partial pressure of oxygen is 100 millimeters of mercury, we can see 98% of oxygen saturation. But in tissue capillaries, what happens means the partial pressure of oxygen is 40 millimeters of mercury. And we know theoretically, if it is PO2 is 40 millimeters of mercury, then oxygen saturation will be 75%. But actually, it doesn't happen here. Only 60% oxygen saturation of hemoglobin can be seen in tissue capillaries. And why you know that means? Because in tissues we know oxygen is required, so more oxygen is released from hemoglobin there. For that reason, we can see only 60% saturation hemoglobin, the rest 40% that is released to the tissue, so that tissues can take this oxygen and do various metabolic reactions producing ATP or energy. So that occurs in the tissue capillaries. So in pulmonary alveoli, partial pressure of oxygen is 100 millimeters of mercury, oxygen saturation is 98 or 97%. Coming to tissue capillaries, even though theoretically the oxygen saturation is 75% because partial pressure of oxygen is 40. But normally or actually 60% saturation can be seen there. There are certain factors that will shift this curve, the red colored shown one, to right side or to the left side. So these factors may be pH, temperature, 2,3 bisphosphoglycerate, again the main important that is CO2, partial pressure of carbon dioxide. Also all these factors that will shift this curve, sigmoid shaped curve to right side or to the left side. So we can have a look on the curve that shifted to right side first. See this curve. Here we can see when we look at the partial pressure of oxygen at 50 millimeters of mercury, we can see that the oxygen saturation reduced to 70%. But normally it is at 50, we know the this one oxygen saturation is 83%. But here, because of this shift towards the right, we can see even though the partial pressure is 50, that is at 50 millimeters of mercury, the oxygen saturation got reduced to 70%. Already it is 83 normal, but it is reduced to 70%. See, partial pressure of oxygen 50, shift to right. Here the saturation of oxygen or oxygen saturation is 70%. And now when we have a look on the other curve, again it's also sigmoid shape, but there we can see a shift towards the left side. Here also when we look at the partial pressure of oxygen at 50 millimeters of mercury, we can see the oxygen saturation is raised to 90%. Normal it is 83% at 50. So at 50 partial pressure of oxygen at 50 millimeters of mercury, we can see a raise in the oxygen saturation that reaches up to 90%. That is shift to left, we can see partial pressure of oxygen, even though it is 50, we can see an oxygen saturation that is 90%. Normal it is 83%. So we can move to the factors that shift this curve to right or left. There are certain factors. So we can have a look on that. So the factors that shift this curve to right or left include PCO2, pH, temperature, 2,3 bisphosphoglycerate, all this. And when we look to the curve that shift to right, that occurs when there is reduced hemoglobin oxygen affinity, and that occurs in tissues. We know tissues the partial pressure of oxygen is 40 and we already seen that. And there what happens means because of various metabolic reactions and all, we know our body produce carbon dioxide and partial pressure of carbon dioxide is increased there. So this is one of the factor. Again the pH is reduced there and increased in H plus ion concentration, and we know pH is the negative logarithm of H plus ion concentration. So pH is reduced. Again increase in temperature, increase in 2,3 bisphosphoglycerate. All these factors will decrease the oxygen affinity or will cause the shift of the curve to the right side, that is shifted to right side. Now moving to the shift to left. So we know this occurs when there is higher Hb oxygen affinity, hemoglobin oxygen affinity, because it is in the lungs where PO2 is high, we have seen, and the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is less there, pH is high there and decreased H plus, and decrease in temperature, decrease in bisphosphoglycerate. All these factors will favor or will increase the oxygen affinity of hemoglobin, and that will cause the shift of the curve to the left side, thereby increasing the oxygen saturation of hemoglobin. So these are the certain factors that will cause the sigmoid curve to shift either to right side or to the left side. You can see that T form that is stabilized here, and when we move to the lungs, that T form of the hemoglobin is switched to the R form, that is a relaxed form that can carry the oxygenated, that is the oxygenated hemoglobin there. So that's all about the oxygen dissociation curve. Thank you all.